Council has a range of grants available, and in this August round, there's the 4 that are on the screen that are currently open, and they're available for you to apply for now. So there's our community project grants, our environmental projects, our recreation development, and our recreation facilities upgrade grants. So the first question, I guess, for each of you and your organisations is, are you eligible? And each grant round has their own specific guidelines and criteria and eligibility requirements for the projects. But as a minimum, all applicants must be an incorporated organisation, or they must have their application auspiced by an incorporated organisation. So if you're not incorporated, you can approach another organisation who is incorporated. You can fill out the application form and they'll become the applicant organisation for all of the paperwork. You also need to hold current public liability insurance, and part of the application process will ask you to upload your insurance certificates. Thanks, Connie. This round in particular, we're looking at how our grants program, or we have specific criteria for our grants program to be able to assist the community to recover from the impacts of COVID-19. So in each of the grants programs, you'll have an additional question to ask you to consider how you can address the impacts of COVID-19. So the following question on the application form will need to be addressed, and it'll need to be assessed as part of your application. So have a think about your project and how COVID-19 has impacted your group, and then how that project will address the impacts. So there are project ideas and suggestions available in the guidelines. If you are successful and your project does address COVID-19, or your organisation has been impacted by COVID-19 and your project is funded, just be aware that there might be additional requirements depending on the COVID-19 situation at that time that you'll need to address to ensure that the activity or the project or event that you're holding is COVID safe and compliant with the Chief Health Officer's directives at the time. Thanks, Connie. So the community project grants, they aim to provide local non-profit organisations and groups with funding for local projects that are innovative, or service enhancements that target recognised high needs groups in the Mildura rural city community. So the funding is up to $6,000, and the types of programs or activities that funds is for any community programs, maybe cultural events, training, some service delivery or one-off events. And you can talk to Connie a little bit more about those grants. The environmental project grants aims to support local community groups in developing local and innovative environmental projects. These include projects that implement or enhance water and energy conservation. They might be about waste reduction or some recycling and revegetation projects. The funding is up to $4,000, and the types of examples of projects that have been funded are maybe revegetation with drought-tolerant plants, recycling water, rainwater tanks for irrigation and use within buildings, some water-saving appliances, energy-efficient lightings, timers, and appliances. Recreation development grants, they aim to encourage the provision of new or existing local leisure initiatives at a grassroots level, and they also aim to expand the range and quality of recreation opportunities available to people across the municipality. The funding for the recreation development grants is up to $3,000, and all of our recreation grants are on a 2-for-1 basis. Examples of the types of things that we traditionally fund through this program are coaching clinics, some training or development opportunities for volunteers or players, and the purchase of some minor equipment that may support any of those new or expanded range of recreation opportunities. A recreation facilities upgrades grant, this is about the facilities that people participate in, and the aim of it is to assist in improving opportunities for locals to participate in and enjoy sport and recreation. And local groups can use the grant to complete improvement works on facilities such as renovations, upgrades or new buildings. The funding for this round, for this grant is up to $15,000, and once again it's on a 2-for-1 basis. And the types of projects that we traditionally fund in this are construction or upgrades for newer existing buildings and facilities, resurfacing of playing surfaces, installation of lights, and also the planning for those sorts of projects. So they might be feasibility studies, they might be business or strategic plans, or they might be design plans for new or upgraded buildings. So important milestones. So the grant round is open now. It opened on Monday, and your application needs to be submitted by 4 p.m. on Monday, the 5th of October. We don't accept late applications. Council decision will be in November, and the applications will be notified in early December. So these grants are for projects that will take place in the next calendar year. And we encourage people to contact any of the grant owners or the grants officers as soon as possible so that you can get access to our Smarty Grants, to our online application program. Thanks. Now I'm going to hand back to Connie now, who's going to go through and just give you some tips on how to develop a successful application.
Thanks, Sue. As Sue mentioned, I am talking to you probably about one of the most important parts of the actual application, and that's about your pre-planning before you commence your application online. So developing the project plan is a very important step. We, like most other important things in life, we don't, build a house or head off to the bank without actually thinking through what we're trying to achieve before we get started. So planning to succeed is what we're here to support. So we want you to think about what you're trying to achieve through the funding that you're trying to ascertain from council. Are you trying to solve an existing issue or capitalise on an opportunity for the community? We would assume that you already have a project in mind, but we'd like to help you to plan that as best as possible to make it a really competitive grant application. We do have lots of applications coming through this round, and we'd like to support you. As Sue mentioned, we're here, we're available. Our support is to help from a technical perspective, so we can talk you through the questions, we can talk you through the access to the application form. Once you've commenced an application form online, we can actually access the application form, and we can go in and give you some technical advice about some of the tips and pointers that might be beneficial, where you might need to just flesh out a response a little bit more or give a little bit more context or clarity. So that's what we can do, and please don't hesitate to contact us at any time, either via phone or email. So there are 7 questions that we think are important to consider in your pre-planning. So the first question is what? So obviously, what is this idea? What is the project that you're hoping to get off the ground? Describe it as best you can. What is it that this project will achieve? And what will you call your project? Although that might sound like a really minuscule point, but it is really important in the marketing of your project. So once we actually, if your project is successful, we like to do lots of promotion around the successful grants. We put stories in the media, online, in our council matters. So it'd be really nice if your project title is nice and succinct, and it helps, it's very clear to community what your project is about, and it could potentially attract some more participants or some more interest in your project as well, just through the title. So why is your project important? So we know that lots of applicants are associated with community entities and community groups, but potentially our grants are for the broader benefit. It's about improving the livability in our community. So we'd like our applicants to consider not only the immediate benefit to your community group, but how your project is potentially going to benefit the broader community. We want a bit of an understanding on why council should be providing this support for this project, and what would happen to this project if council weren't able to fund it. We also like to see some evidence for the community project. So you may have seen a project idea online, you might have seen something on the ABC or in a news article. Pop a link, a photo, a report, any evidence that you can provide that can clearly demonstrate the value in the project that you're trying to achieve. Assume that the assessors will have no understanding of the project. They are independent to this process, so they won't have the background information that Sue or Nadia or myself will have, and we are not able to give that information to the assessors. So as much information that you can provide to them to give a very clear picture about your project, the better off your application will be. So the who will be involved in your project. So we'd like you to come together with the other members of your volunteer group or your community group and really workshop this plan. It's great that we need to know that everybody's on board and that you've got the support of the entire group. That's really beneficial because we know that sometimes the applicants for particular groups might move on to other projects. They might leave the community. So it's good that someone else in the project can actually step up and know how this project came to light and the intentions of the project, and can then continue moving the project forward. As we've mentioned, talking to Sue, Nadia and myself, we talk amongst ourselves about grants and applications that are coming in. We talk to lots of community groups across the community, and there have been occasions where we've known 2 or 3 different applicants trying to actually achieve the same objective. And by putting the groups together in contact with each other, they've actually been able to realise their projects in a way that they wouldn't have been able to do if they were all trying to chip away at it from different perspectives. So sometimes we can help to actually bring people together to get the project moving a little bit quicker and a bit easier. So when we ask about who will benefit from your project, as we've mentioned, we really like to see inclusive projects and projects that will benefit the broader community, not just a particular cohort or demographic of the community. We like to see that the projects are actually accessible and inclusive. And importantly, we like to know who's actually going to be supporting the delivery of the project. So who will be the project lead, who will be supporting the project. If you've got people offering training or different components of the project, it's nice if we can actually see a very clear demonstration of the governance of who will be supporting the delivery, not just the applicant, but that the rest of the group are actually contributing to deliver the project. So a really important question to ask with given our current circumstances. So normally we would be asking, you know, when would the project happen across the 12-month timeline, as Sue mentioned. But the additional question that we'd like you to consider is when can you actually achieve those deliverables in our current COVID situation? So when might your group be able to come together? Is a face-to-face requirement of delivering this project? Is there alternative ways that you can deliver that? When might you be able to hire a venue to deliver your project? So with a COVID lens, we'd also like you to consider this question. The critical dates is generally what we're looking for is when might your project be able to start? When would you be able to go out and purchase the items that you might need to facilitate the project? When would the project be delivered? And when would the project be completed? Just this is more for your benefit, more so than ours, so that you know that you have a very logical timeline that you will be able to achieve that project in the 12-month period. Where, again, with the COVID perspective, it just adds a little bit more complexity to this question. So thinking about, do you have a venue where you could actually secure social distancing requirements? Would you potentially need to find another location, possibly delivering your project outside? Where might that be? And then considering the all ability access, as we said, we always like to consider projects that are considerate of our diverse community, so the community can access it via public transport, that there is secure, safe and entryways, that the doorways are accessible to people with a wheelchair and other sort of considerations, but particularly with that COVID lens, thinking about where you'll be facilitating your project. So how much? Another really strong indicator for us is we like to see that you map out your entire project in a really holistic way, so that we like to see that you've actually considered all the nuts and bolts that will be required to deliver your project, not just the items that you're asking for funding. And that demonstrates to us that you have a really good grasp on the overall cost of delivering the project, and that you're not going to get somewhere into the project and realise you haven't got enough money to complete it. So things like freight, admin, and now with that COVID lens as well, might there be additional PPE or hand sanitizer or some other protective items that might be needed to facilitate the program. So pop all of the items that you think you're going to need. And then in another section, we actually ask, well, which of these items will the grant actually pay for? So in the application form, there's a section where we like to see the costed out budget. As I said, we like you to include all of the items, including the items that won't be covered by the budget, because we'd like to see that ideally you have the money that will match the item requirements. So those two dollar figures should match. And again, we can help step you through working out. We do allow for things like in kind. So if you have volunteer contribution, their own time can also be contributed towards the delivery of the project, and we can help you work that out, calculate the figures for that as well. So that's pretty much the criteria of how we think you can get a really successful and competitive grant in. If you can answer the what, why, who, how, when, where, how much, and with that COVID lens as well, we think you're in a really good position for a competitive application. As we've mentioned, we're here to help. We can offer that technical advice. We're not involved in the assessment process, so we're really here to help the applicant. So don't be shy to get in contact with us and ask any questions that you might have. So the next step, if you're successful in ascertaining funding, as we've mentioned, there's 12 months for you to deliver the project. If at any point in time and we probably anticipate that there might be some stop-start points for your project, if you need to apply for a variation, speak to us, speak to Sue, Nadia and myself. Let us know what might be happening for your project. If you think that you need a little bit more time or something's changed and you can't deliver on face-to-face and you need to consider online, whatever those changes might be, you need to speak to us first, and we can help support you with a variation to your funding agreement as well. At the end, we will need some hard evidence, so we will need the receipts or invoices to demonstrate how the funding was actually spent. If you're able to arrange some media to launch your program, we love seeing those photos. We love using those photos for media and encouraging other groups to apply for grants, and also to draw people to your project if that's what you're needing. If there's an opportunity for a counsellor to come along to launch your project or to attend your project, counsellors love those opportunities, and we love connecting the counsellors to those community opportunities. And one of the other requirements in the application, in the funding agreement, is that we like to see council recognition for the support that we've provided. So if you're needing banners or flags or logos or any sort of promotional material, please contact us and we can help support you to access those materials. So applying, you come, as we mentioned, you come to Sue, Nadia and myself, depending on which grant you're applying for. We'll be able to provide you with an access code. We house our online application into a program called Smarty Grants, which we'll give you the access for as well. It's very straightforward, really user-friendly. There are previews of all of the application forms now online. So under each of the grant programs, there's a hard copy of our application form. I find that they're really beneficial for people to take to their community groups, to their volunteers, and to start workshopping those questions as a collective. The other thing to consider, if you're delivering a project that is in either a council building or on council land or land of someone else, you will need to seek approval, and we will need to have evidence that you have land manager's consent. Again, we can help work you through that process. And our applications close on the 5th of October. So I think that's all from us. If anyone has some questions, I'd like to open it up to our applicants.